Welcome back to the Dear Monday podcast. I'm your host, TuRhonda Freeman. So glad you're back. This season, we've been following three different kinds of threshold moments. We talked about one woman standing at the edge of ownership, trying to decide whether she actually wanted the life attached to her decision. One woman trying to leave a successful career while confronting the reality that some forms of waiting are wisdom and some are avoidance. And the woman rebuilding after disruption she didn't choose, trying to determine whether the desire to move again was clarity or exhaustion with the in between. All three have crossed over into their moment. And now all three are standing at the same kind of edge. Not the edge of the original decision, but what comes after it. The question has shifted. It's no longer, should I? It's something deeper, something harder. How do you know when you're ready to go again? If you've been through a hard transition, a disruption you didn't choose, an exit that tested you, a commitment that was harder than expected, and you're standing at the edge of something new, this episode is for you. Here's where Renee, our rebuilder, is now. She came into the in between carrying pressure to move, carrying the urgency that disruption typically produces, the need to have an answer, to be building again, to stop being in the middle of something she didn't want and didn't choose. She did the work. She has clarity on what she lost and what it cost her, and what she won't accept going into the next chapter. She knows the difference between moving toward something and moving away from something, and a new commitment is starting to form. The question she's carrying now isn't, can I do this? She knows she can. The question is harder than capability. The question is, am I choosing this because it's right or because I'm ready to stop being in the in between? You see, if you've ever stood at that edge, if you've ever felt the pull to move and couldn't tell whether it was clarity or just exhaustion with the waiting, I want you to stay with me today. Here's what I want to identify. Most people wait to feel ready. And when they discover the feeling doesn't come the way they expected, it doesn't come as certainty or the absence of fear or a signal, a clear signal that this is the moment. And for the person who has been through something hard, I'm talking about a disruption or a painful exit, a commitment that asked more than it gave back, ready carries extra pressure. Because there are two things that can feel like readiness. There is readiness to move, to be done with the in between, to have a direction and be building again. And then there's readiness for the specific commitment that follows. And those are not the same things. The urgency to move is real. The in between can sometimes be exhausting. The desire to have an answer, I understand that personally. That desire is not the problem. The question is whether that urgency is driving the decision or whether clarity is the driver. Because a commitment made from urgency and a commitment made from clarity can actually look identical when you're signing documents. And unfortunately, that difference doesn't show up until year two. So let's talk about the distinction very clearly and plainly. Choosing from the wrong place is typically built around what you're leaving. And that primary motivation is ending something. It's ending the in between, the uncertainty, the weight of what happened. The vision of what comes next is most vivid as an exit from where you are now, not as a life to be lived. The why answers itself with pressure because it's time, right? Because I've been in this long enough, because I can't keep doing this. Those things are real, my friend. I get it. But they are not specific enough to hold in any hard season. Choosing from the right place is typically built around what you are going into, what you're entering. We're talking this specific chapter, this specific commitment, in full view of what it will require, not just what it will produce. The vision extends past the announcement. It reaches into a random day in year two when the new chapter is harder than expected and the why typically holds there. Not because you've earned it, not because it's time, but because it's the right fit for who you are now after everything that changed you. That's the distinction. So here's the test. And I want you to sit with these three signals and just be honest with yourself. First, is the why organized around what you're entering or what you're leaving? If the clearest answer to why this, why now lives in what you're done with, meaning I'm done with this disruption, the in between, the chapter you want to close, that's worth examining. The answer that holds is forward facing. It names and identifies something specific about what you're moving toward that is the right fit for who you are now. Second, does the vision extend past the commitment moment? The imagination stops at the announcement. The new role, the new launch, the beginning of the next chapter, that's a signal if it stops. The person choosing from the right place has thought about what comes after, about the hard week in year two, about who they are inside the difficulty or the ordinary, not just inside the fresh start. And lastly, is the urgency to move pointing toward the right thing or just pointing toward moving? This is a motion trap. Urgency is pushing toward the nearest available option rather than pushing toward the right thing. If this commitment is shaped by the need to be in motion rather than the need for this specific motion, that is worth knowing before your decision is made. Please don't get caught up in a motion trap. You're not trying to eliminate uncertainty here. You're trying to identify what is actually driving your decision. You don't need to resolve all three of these perfectly, but you're looking for a signal. One is enough to examine. So here's what I want you to understand about going again. It's not starting over. It is starting from what you know now. Disruption, the hard exit, the commitment that tested you, none of that is lost. It's information. I call it proprietary data. It is the most specific information you have about what you're willing to carry, what you won't accept, and what the right next chapter actually looks like for you. That is not nothing. That's actually a specific and strategic advantage. The person who does the work of the in between gets to bring that into their next commitment with more clarity than they had the first time, with more specificity about what they need the next chapter to be. You see, going again well means using what you've learned. building the next commitment on that foundation, not on the urgency to be done with the in between and giving into the pressure of that in between, but on the clarity about what comes next. The question was never about whether you were capable of going again. It was always about whether you were choosing from the right place. Now you have all the tools to answer that question honestly. If you're at this moment, coming out of a hard transition, standing at the edge of something new, feeling the pull to move, I want to ask you one question before you do. Not whether you're capable, not whether it's time, whether you're choosing from the right place. See the urgency? I felt it myself. It's real. Desire to be done with the in between, also real. And the commitment you make from this position carries more weight than the first one because you know more now. That knowledge is the advantage. Use it. If something in this episode landed, if you're at the edge of a new commitment and you want to make sure that it's built on the right foundation, we offer a decision exposure review. That's where this conversation belongs. Not to validate your direction, but to examine whether the next commitment is structurally sound, specifically for your position, with a full view of what it will actually require of your life before your decision, when the thinking still belongs to you. I want to invite you to go to www.dearmonday.co, clarity before commitment. Lastly, we've been with all three women through consequential decision moments. There is one thing that they all have in common, one cost that runs underneath every major ownership decision, regardless of where you're standing. Now, this cost doesn't show up in the diligence process, it's not in the transition plan, and most people don't count it until they're already inside something that they can't easily adjust. I've personally sat in all three seats, and this cost found me in every one of them. That's episode 10, and the one that closes out the season. The cost you don't count, and what it changes when you finally do. I'll see you there.